Hello, everyone, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and some nearly good night time. Thank you very much once again, Sakya friends, and all the dedicated translators uh, to this tonight's teaching, special teaching on the six root afflictions. So, before we start the teaching, it's very important that we put our minds in a very good frame, with good, very altruistic motivation, and we'll do the just the four-line refuge prayer, which also includes the generation of bodhicitta. So, which is paying respect to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, and we take refuge until enlightenment reached. We are Buddhists with belief, so we know that it's not just this life, but many other lives. So our aim and purpose is for all sentient beings. Our aim is to achieve enlightenment, however many lifetimes it takes, by taking refuge wholeheartedly to the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha. And then we dedicate the merit from listening and translating and giving the teachings, all that everyone have put their time together to, so that people can hear these teachings. So this is very noble undertaking, and so we rejoice all of these good causes and condition, even though we are separated by distance, many thousands miles and different time zones. Nevertheless, we are able to use modern technology and hear these teachings. So rejoice all these things, and with this in mind, we'll do the refuge prayer 3 times. Thank you, everybody. In the Buddha Dharma Asanga, I take refuge enlightenment by virtue of Yevendala. I shall Buddha Utu Vebis in the Buddha Dharma Asanga, I tere enlightenment by virtue of Yevendala. I shall Buddha Utu and the Buddha Dharma Asanga, I tere enlightenment by virtue of Yevendala. I shall Buddha Utu. So this topic of the tonight's teaching, known as six root afflictive emotions, is very central to Buddhist teachings. Even though the term six root afflictions are coined by Asanga, but of course the actual afflictions and their teachings are from the Buddha himself. So therefore we shouldn't say, oh, this is Asanga's teaching or something. No, there's very, very little there. It's just a list of them is mentioned in the Abhidharma-samuccaya. But actual description of the, not just the root, but secondary and 84,000 and afflictions are mentioned in entire Buddhist teachings. So this topic in question is largely an elaboration on the second noble truth, the truth of the origin of the sufferings. There is so much suffering in the world, and then because of samsara, by nature is suffering. The nature of fire is burning. Nature of water is fluid. Nature of tangible things are obstructive. The nature of air is movement. The nature of life is suffering, according to Buddhist teachings. All lives have suffering. The sufferings has many causes. Some secondary, some concomitant, some maybe secondary, but some are root cause of sufferings. So when we talk about the true origin of sufferings, so this we are talking about, Buddha talks about 3 poisons, and so when he's talking about 3 poisons, he's talking about the 3 root afflictions. But when we say 6 root affliction, in addition to the 3, then the 3 more is added. So in tonight's teaching, we're going to focus on the afflictedness of these emotions. Afflicted by meaning, by nature, means it is contaminated, it is obscured, and when the mind is afflicted, it usually does not know it is afflicted, and it is the root of the afflictions that makes itself to spread to become many other afflictions. So if the root and secondary afflictions are not recognized for what they are, then these root and afflictions spread into our behaviors, our actions, our doings physically, the way we speak to people, and how we think and how we form opinions, all become afflicted. If the source of the river is dirty, then all the water that flows down the stream will all be dirtied by the poison or whatever it is. So the root of the afflictions has to be understood. So most difficult thing for people like us is to know affliction as affliction. Afflictions are not things that you see with eyes or listen with ears. Afflictions are not something out there. Afflictions are a kind of a seizure that happens from within, and it usually is very unconscious. We do not know we are afflicted. So therefore it's very good to know the signs of the afflictions, how they obscure us, how they debilitate us, and then disable us from knowing that we are afflicted. It's like a person who is at the bar and he is drinking alcohol. For the first maybe half a glass, he just enjoys the flavor. And then he thinks it's good, but later on he becomes intoxicated. He doesn't know he's intoxicated. An intoxicated person is not really safe or dangerous to other people, and also to himself. So that's only when the person actually drinks alcohol. But in Buddhism, people are mostly intoxicated by the root afflictions. Like an intoxicated person become bold and say and do things that he usually wouldn't do, because usually he is a little bit sober, and he therefore restrains his thoughts or behaviors or what he says because he's sober. He's not drunken. Whereas the drunken person loses his sanity and is unable to restrain his thoughts or words or deeds, and also he's not aware he's drunken. He doesn't know what he's saying or doing, and there are consequences. So like that, afflictions basically poisons our mind. So there are 6 root afflictions. So it is very important that you don't get stuck in words, okay? Why? Because Buddhist teachings are very new in the modern language. And they come from Sanskrit and then translated into languages like Tibetan. And so now try to translate into English. Don't get stuck in certain words thinking that's the only way. Because there are some very bombastic terminology some Western interpreters coin, which are not accurate. Nor would be totally accurate used by someone like me. Why? Because it takes a long time for the terminology to become standardized and widely accepted. So therefore, be fairly open-minded, okay? And so tonight our session will be in 2 parts. So we will do 1 hour teaching now, and then have a 15-minute break, and then we will have a second hour. I hope I can explain a little bit slowly so that our friends translator can translate easily. Oh, thank you. So, out of the 6 root afflictions, first it is called root. Root because it is the origin of our sufferings. And it is the true origin of sufferings. And therefore it's very good to know why they are root. And if you know the characteristic of the afflictions and why they are root afflictions, then we wanted to know how to detect them, how to read the signs of these afflictions looming or invading our conscience. So we need to develop this metacognitive awareness to read the omens, signs that you are afflicted by either of these root afflictions. So that's why it's good to know what the root afflictions are. And if we say, what is this? This is a prayer wheel. This is a prayer wheel. So we look at the prayer wheel and then we know it's a prayer wheel. Even this, we have to be introduced by somebody. Not everybody knows it's a prayer wheel. They say, what is this? Because they haven't seen it. But once they have been introduced to this object and saying, that's a prayer wheel, and this has got prayers inside, and when you turn like this, and that's a Buddhist people use this as a prayer wheel. That's how we introduce objects. Now, afflictions are not objects. They are subjects. They are subjective problems, subjective unawarenesses. So therefore we need to be very reflective to know what the afflictions are. So I'm going to explain each of these afflictions a little bit one by one. So the first one is called desirous attachment. I translate this as a desirous attachment instead of just attachment. Why? The Tibetan word is de chak. De means desire, chak means attachment. Tibetan language is monosyllabic language. Every syllable has a meaning. So disyllabic word like de chak. De means desirous and chak means attachment. So this means that the person who has desirous attachment, it is not a question of who has desirous attachment, who hasn't. All sentient beings, particularly us who are born in this desire, we all have desire and attachment. We all are completely intoxicated by desirous attachment. But yet we do not know we drank that much alcohol or to desire, to want. And then what you want is contaminated. What you want is you do not know, it's undesirable. But we yet desire the very thing that looks very attractive, that looks promises so much. So we desire because our five sense doors, where the eyes desire form, ears desire sound, and likewise your nose smell, and then it doesn't desire some smells and so on. So you can see desire is a subjective longing in one's mind that I want this, I want this, I want this. So that's like what is called desirous. And chak is attachment. So not only the person is afflicted in not knowing the object that he desires is undesirable, but he will do anything to get it. So that object is contaminated, meaning the objects, material objects, such as form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and thought, all views and opinions. So we could be desiring to have any of those sense objects that are largely controlled by things. They are impermanent. They look desirable, but they will not stay desirable because they are impermanent. But the person who desires the thing doesn't know that it will change. It is not as exactly as what we desire. We exaggerate ourselves about the desirability of the undesirable. So that's afflictive desire. Afflicted desire. So desire itself doesn't have to be afflicted. So you can desire to learn Dharma. We desire to attain enlightenment. So that is not afflicted desire, yeah? But still desire, yeah? But when we talk about afflicted desire, the very object itself is contaminated. Contaminated by one's exaggeration, one's seeing things in the thing that it lacks. One thing is permanent, but the object is not permanent. One thing that someone is good, but he's only good sometimes, not always. So yet we desire the very thing as the thing is going to be good always and permanence. So therefore, because not only we desire the undesirable, but we become subsequently attached to the object and to the thing, which if we may have been successful to obtain in our possession. Once we obtain someone or something or some position, then we do not want to let it go. So that's the attachment bit. So desire and attachment combined together is called desirous attachment. When you are very desiring and wanting, this incessant wanting is desire, and particularly the thing that we want is contaminated. So in this world, everything is contaminated in the sense we think the book is good. The book is contaminated by its impermanence, its perishability, it's a transient nature of it. But yet the person who desires the object doesn't know it is like that. So that's why it's contaminated by the wrong view, thinking it is permanent, it is perfect, it is desirable. So therefore the desirous attachment is the predominant affliction to all of us. Yet, so right now we do not know that desirous attachment is an afflictive emotion we have. We don't know that. And the teachings talk about that how insensitive we are as far as knowing the demerit of each desire, each afflictive emotion, such as desirous attachment, like the single hair put in your palms. You do not say, oh, okay, this hair is so rough, can you take away? Most people don't even know they have a hair in their hand. So why? We are so unconscious of the afflictive emotion, and the nature of the afflictive emotion, in this case, is a desirous attachment. So this shows that we are often unaware that we have the root affliction of desirous attachment. Unfortunately, not only we have desirous attachment, but we have desirous attachment is constant. It's just question is whether we want this, whether we want that. There is hardly any time that mind is resting from desirous attachment. It's always desiring, it's always wanting. So intoxicates the person. So that's why it's very hard for the person to know, I suffer from desirous attachment. People don't say that. Why? Because it's like the Buddha said, it's like a hair in your hand, you don't notice it. But one who has understood the teachings of the demerit of afflictive emotion in general, and desirous attachment as one of the six in particular, then it's like the same single hair put in your eyes. If you put the same single hair that you don't feel on your palms, if you put the hair in your eyes, you straight away notice your eye is super sensitive to know that, we really like to take the eye hair straight away because we can feel irritating. Now, I wanted to irritate you all tonight. Sorry about that. To say that we have root affliction, a desirous attachment. But there will be some among you whose practice of Dharma is significantly stronger than your affliction, and because of that you are able to restrain your desirous attachment to things, to visual objects, or to where you want to sit, or what you want to listen to, or one moment you want to listen to classical jazz, all of a sudden you want to change the tape, you want to say this, and you're arguing with your daughter or somebody, no, I want to listen. Oh, I told you I can't listen to this. All these things, because of desires, they become so afflicted. They're arguing with the daughter's arguing with the father over the thing they want to listen, you see. So these kind of things can create conflict between two friends, because both are desiring what they want and don't care what other person want. And when the two person are fighting, they are fighting because they didn't get what each of them want. Neither of them know that what they're desiring is undesirable. And particularly they attach to the very thing that is undesirable as the most desirable one. So they're deluded. So when we say afflictive emotions, they're deluded in thinking this is desirable. Most things are desirable for a little bit, but they don't warrant any worthiness to hold it, grasp it, to get attached to. But yet, people are suffering from attachment of things they once used to do, able to do, now they can't even do it. But yet they are so attached to it, and they're crying because they no longer can enjoy it, they no longer can do it, they no longer can go or jump or whatever your physical skills were, or emotional, intellectual capacity, because you're old or you're frail or you forgot or whatever. And then people suffer because they are so attached to their past skills and talents they no longer can do. Like a person who is suffering from illness is not because he's suffering from illness, but he's attached to his health that he used to enjoy. Say 5 days before, he was really well healthy, and he's been healthy for whole life. And then from 5 days on, since then he's been sick, and then he's suffering not because he's getting sick, but he's attached to his health. his body is undesirably, it's not perfect. Body is unsatisfactory. But yet he was hoping that his body is going to be satisfactory. So his disappointment comes from him desiring undesirable. He didn't think the body will encounter such illnesses and will cause problems. And now his desiring of his health to stay strong is no longer there. Then now he is dumbfounded in so far as not coping with ill health. So you can see, even so, when we say desire, we don't mean the desires as a lust only, last, very having lustful attitude towards something. We're talking about desiring to stay healthy. And when one has actually stayed maybe 30, 40 years of good health, now when you have been diagnosed with one illness, then you become so impatient with illnesses. And why? Because one is attached to the good health of what one used to enjoy. But that good health is only temporarily good. So it's undesirable. So therefore, our disappointment comes from our wrong view, thinking that desire is, our health and our body or whatever is permanent or satisfactory, which is exactly opposite. It's impermanent and unsatisfactory. So therefore, if the single hair that we put on the hand we cannot feel, now we start to notice the hair is in our eyes. So when you have heard this teaching tonight, then you are going to develop the super sensitivity to make sure the single hair doesn't go into your eyes. So this means to exercise restraint from desirous attachment. So maybe, yeah, we are practicing Dharma. We're meditating, we're translating, we're doing prayers, we read the Dharma books. So these are not contaminated worldly activity. These are Dharma practices. So when we are practicing Dharma, we're actually putting off the desirous attachment and turning the desirous attachment into aspiration to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Take refuge in the Buddha. So therefore, I can say that is not contaminated. Why it is an afflictive emotion, desire, attachment, is that it gives us a lot of heartaches. When the object that we desire and we attach no longer remains with us, whether it's possessions or positions or health or relationship or whatever it is, it's no longer there, then we suffer from a karma of attachment. Then we are mourn and groan as we have lost it. The very thing that we lost it was in the first place, in the first case, it was not satisfactory anyway, but yet we desire it to become satisfactory. So therefore, it's very important to know the demerit of the desirous attachment, and we slowly try to moderate by practicing Dharma, by meditating, by restraining the desire and attachment, whatever it is. Some people's attachment is with their opinions. Their opinion is so strong, then he's so attached to his opinion, he can't respect any other people's opinion. Therefore, he is conflict with the other person because they are so rigid in their views, so they're attached to their views. So therefore, this first root affliction is desirous attachment. You could have a desirous attachment to objects, paraphernalia, some gadgets, and because one person is very attached to his things, to his objects, to his machinery, or to his device, or whatever, and then quickly he will have a fight with others. So it's because of desirous attachment people steal. People steal material possessions of others. And they don't want it to earn through proper right livelihood. They desire it so much. They want a quick money. And it is due to the affliction of desirous attachment that the thief goes to break into the bank, and then, before he can, run away with the money, he get caught. So all the suffering comes from desirous attachment. Like the moth who flies into the flame of candle light, she desires the candlelight. She doesn't know it is fire. She thinks it is something fantastically beautiful. So she's so desiring the very undesirable flame, and she will try very hard to fly into and getting nearer to the flame. And she's so attached to the color of the object appearance, the flame, she doesn't know it's flame and fire and will incinerate her. But yet, that's exactly what the moth does not know. So that is afflicted emotion, is from the moth, is to think the flame is beautiful and then fly into it only to become incinerated. So many people, if not majority people, are often incinerated, destroyed by their desire for power, possessions, and so on. So you will notice people have attachment to some drinks, people have some attachment to some places they live, what they have, what they want, how particular things will be, and they become so easily agitatable. So when we talk about the six root afflictions, all the six root afflictions are mutually inclusive. There is no independent root affliction that exists by itself. This is very important because in order for you to understand what the root afflictive emotions are, you also need to know they are all interdependently originated root afflictions. Like you see my 5 fingers, all the 5 fingers, and you can say hands, and people say, oh, you got a lovely long fingers, or you got a very, whatever, it's when the 5 fingers are with the hand, it looks okay. But imagine one of these fingers on the table, that wouldn't be so desirable. But when all the 5 fingers are sticking with the hands, we might even shake the hands. But if there's a single finger is on the table, will you go and shake the hands with the finger? No, people would be scared. So the afflictive emotions appears desirable or pleasant to the mind of those who don't have the supersensitivity to know the demerit of the afflictive emotions. So all sentient beings in desire realm and in this form realm, formless realm, all the 3 realms of existence have this desire. And some, of course, the form and formless realms level of desire is much more subtle. Like those us who are human beings on the planet Earth, we are basically desire-orientated persons. So we're always wanting, always desiring. Not only we desire some, but those we've managed to get, we get attached to them. We don't want to part. When we do part, then we suffer from depression. So that's why desirous attachment is root of depression. Desirous attachment is also root of anger, and so on. So that will suffice for the first of the 6 root afflictions. Second root affliction is hate. Hate. Tibetan word for hatred is called kong tro. Kong means deep within. Tro means raging, inner rage. Inner rage. So internal rage, which means hate. The hate is a root affliction in the sense the person who is afflicted by his ill will and hate, he is so tormented from within and so the mind itself is constantly tormented. He hates who he is, why he is, what the things is or isn't happening. Because of that, he expresses his hostile and afflictive, fierce emotion. Then everything manifests hostile to the person, and he cannot tolerate even smallest thing. So our society today is totally zero tolerant. So basically people have so much hate and resentment and ill will. So this rootness of the affliction is hate. Usually people who are angry or hate, we can use these two terminology interchangeably, hate and anger, even though they are slightly different, because anger could be very, very spontaneous, but hate could be outwardly looking nothing, but deep down very, very ill will. So here it is, the hate is a very deep pain, misery inside, and then the mind could not let go of its ill will, and it doesn't know he is doing ill will, yet he is doing just that, and he's doing just that to make him become ill, make him become sick, make him to destroy his blood pressure, increase his blood pressure, and whatever psychophysical, I would say, dependent origination or occurs, because it's all related. Because the person has so much ill will and hatred and anger, and he has this amazing contaminated mentality that torments him. Because of that, he projects unconsciously onto others, and he sees people's hostility towards him, even though it's all his projection. He doesn't know it is his projection. So he basically jumps at his own shadow, thinking it is somebody else. And so the person who is suffering the afflictive emotions of hate, he does not have any sense of peace. It robs his sensibility and peace and insanity. So it's just like the alcohol. The person is intoxicated by his hate and ill will, and he couldn't focus, he couldn't sleep well, he can't digest food, and he couldn't see any good in others or in anything. He only sees everything negative. Because of that, he is very hostile. He almost imagines and he believes that everybody is hostile to him. Even the kindest person, he thinks the kindest person is hostile to him, wanted to control him. He misread. He basically becomes psychotically confused by his own ill will. It makes him or her to project and to see things that are not there, but actually it's all in their head. So this is how afflictively destructive and disturbing and benumbing the afflictive emotions are. Afflictive emotions are very, very difficult to detect. When a person who is angry, he does not think he's angry. He thinks he's got a good reason. He has a lot of rational mind, thinking he's got a multitude of good reason to be in that heated emotion. He doesn't think he's angry when he is. Yet what he says, I usually say this, an angry person does four things. He closes his eyes, he opens his mouth, he shows his aggression of the body, and he becomes irrational. So anger completely fuels the person, boosts the person's harmfulness and viciousness and hostility towards others, and he doesn't think he's doing any of that. He thinks all the hostility is coming from others towards him. Therefore, if he shows something, he thinks they are justifiable. He doesn't see it is all in his unresolved desire, that is making him to be so enraged. So that shows that when somebody is angry or somebody is hating and ill will, it's because he didn't get what he wants. Because he didn't get to take you over when the car, he's angry at you. He's showing rude gesture to you. You see, so anger is rooted in desirous attachment, and then the desirous attachment now takes the form of hostility, and you wanted to cause pain. You want to inflict pain to the other person by saying words and doing deeds. Try to make them feel bad. So therefore, even act of violence, whether it's physical or verbal, is an expression of ill will and anger and hatred. So when a person experiences this inner seizure, people who suffer from epileptic disease, they collapse, they fall. We are suffer many times due to seizure of anger. And the cause and purpose for which we are angry is totally selfish, totally childish, yet he doesn't know selfishness of it, childishness of it. He thinks he's got a multitude of good reason to be angry, and he doesn't think he's angry. He doesn't know he's raising his voice. He doesn't know what he's saying is irrational. His reaction is counterproductive. He doesn't know any of these. So, but this is not things, external object. These are what we need to see within. So it's not really convenient to recognize hate and ill will when they are active. It is the single hair put in the eyes. It will hurt you. You realize this is anger. But when the hair is on your palm, you don't say this hair hurts my palm, take it away, because we are not aware. So when you're aware of the afflictions and you acknowledge the degree of the harm the affliction causes, then you're not ignorant, are you? You're aware of the desirous attachment and its demerit, and you are aware of the demerit of anger and ill will. You always see something, the wrongdoing of other people, the wrong saying of other people. You tend to hold someone at ransom, thinking it's due to him. He did this to me last year. She said this to me last year. He said this to my sister, and he prays to my enemy. This kind of completely network of hostility to object, to pleasant object, people you love are been harmed by him. You that was years ago, but you still have hatred towards him because he harmed someone you love, or he helped somebody you hate, or whatever. So there could be as a complex network of hatred, as many as 9 folds it talks. So we could have 9 objects of hostility in relation to loved one, and neutral loved one, and then hated person, and to yourself, these 3 person. And then concerning you, loved one, hated person, there is something to do with past, something to do with future, and the present. So these 9-fold objects of hostility, mushrooms, that means erupts. So lots of people you can tell their face how much torment, how much suffering, yet it is all caused by his inner disease, afflictive emotions of ill will and hatred. You wouldn't believe how many people have so much deep-seated ill will and resentment. They outwardly look smart, they wear a tie, they wear a business suit, they drive a nice car, and they have a good position job, but deep down they're completely scrunched. Deep down they are completely screwed up because he's hosting and posting hatred and ill will. And this is the poison. So Buddha said that root of the true origin of suffering must be abandoned. But before you abandon, you got to recognize that it is making you sleepless, it is making you very irrational, it is making you to make very, very careless reactions and overreactions. You have to be so inconvenienced by your hatred of ill will of the past. You have to feel disgusted. You wanted to practice Dharma, so much so to recover from this treacherous illness called hate. If you look at someone, or maybe even yourself, you will see your ill will about that, about him, about that issue is still like a splinter lodged into your muscle. Until that splinter is removed, your whole muscle will be infected and pain will spread. Lots of people are doing ill will and resentment. They, without knowing, that is afflictive emotion. They think they got multitude of good reason to stay angry and to judge others. They don't know they're doing it because the hair is not in the eyes. The single hair is on their palm. They can't feel it. But after listening to Lama Choedak, you might say, on Sunday night, he made you to feel the single hair in your eyes. You are very much inconvenienced by discovering you have ill will. And you really realize, I can't live like this. This is senseless. I must practice Dharma until I'm able to get rid of this hair in my eyes. Then you become super sensitive. You until you discover the root afflictions as a root and true origin of your sorrow, you always has been externalizing to others, to people, what they did as the cause of your misery. So therefore it's so important to understand not only what is suffering, but what is the true origin of suffering. When the true origin of suffering is apprehended, like hatred is apprehended, like the desires, attachments apprehended and recognized, then you will have the advantage of not doing it. You will have ability to admit the deludedness of yourself with lots of desire and a lot of attachment, a lot of anger. You would not waste any moment to see the flaws of other people. But instead you will deliberately look inward whether you are hosting and posting any root afflictions such as desires, attachment, or hatred. In order that you do not do that, you meditate. You breathe in, you breathe out, you just do the simple breathing meditation, or you recite the mantra. Some people don't want to take any commitment to practice any sadhana, and yet they don't want to receive any empowerment. What the hell are they trying to talk about? If they start doing some things like Dharma, then they'll stop their mind doing ill will and desirous attachment. So the Dharma practice that we do is the truth of the noble truth of the path. Because you're busy practicing the noble truth of the path, study, reading, meditation, chanting, whatever you're doing, your mind is not free to practice any of the root afflictions. So while we are talking tonight more specifically what the root afflictions are, but we also need to know how to derail the root afflictions. The purpose of talking about root affliction is so that you know how to uproot it. It's not so much to overwhelm you and make yourself feel guilty and bad and angry and sad. That's not the purpose of this teaching. The purpose of this teaching is saying, thank you. You can say, thank you, Buddha, for telling me about the treacherous afflictive emotion that I have been nursing all these years, and all my high blood pressure and all these problems and emotional problems is because I have been keeping the hate going on, keeping the ill will and resentment going on. Therefore, I should learn how to minimize, how to reduce the afflictive emotions of desire, attachment, and hatred at all costs. It is for this reason I will meditate. I'll study. I will give my time to translate, like all you do, We are all safe, this one. This one is very safe, When we're doing this, we're doing something wholesome. We might even realize, that this teaching tonight is all about second noble truth of the true origin of suffering. Truth of origin was not taught by Asanga, okay? Truth of origin was taught by the Buddha. It's only the enlightened one knows the true origin of sufferings. Other scholars like Asanga, Nagar, they elaborated it. They don't have any original teachings. They are just devotees of the Buddha. They are the commentators of the Buddhist teaching. The actual teaching on the 6 root afflictions are directly from the Buddha. And it's not from someone like me. We have no capacity. But because the Buddha has taught with such a great purpose, and for so many centuries this has been memorized, and then people like us have been, very fortunately blessed by this body of knowledge that enables us to know and read and recognize the afflictive emotions as the hair in the eyes, not hair in the hands. This analogy I'm referring to came from the Buddha too. I'm not good at putting new analogies here. Maybe you should try one day. Take a single hair, put in your palm or put in somebody's palm. They wouldn't have noticed. But if you use that very single hair, put into your eyes or someone's eyes, they straight away feel. So when you have the knowledge of the demerits of root afflictions, you have this super sensitivity. You become aware of the prevalence of afflictions. Prevalence of afflictions. So when you practice in Dharma, you try to reduce the duration and the frequency of our mind becoming spending in afflictive emotions. If you do the meditation, if you do the mantra recitation, if you do that as a daily routine, you will realize how much it is helping you to detect the afflictive emotions. Why you can't suppress them, why you can't uproot them, you can at least suppress them and restrain them and control them from becoming your thoughts and words and deeds. So we must therefore know the purpose of discussing the root afflictions is so that we don't do them. And in order that we don't do them, we got to have disappointed ourselves in the past so many times, so much so we don't want that to repeat again. But if we think that we've been disappointed by other person, we will avoid him or her. But how about you avoiding the root afflictions? But to avoid root affliction, you have to first recognize how destructive, how afflictive, how poisonous it is to your mind and to your conscience. When we have this understanding, it's a bitter pill, It's not a sweet pill. So when you hear these teachings, these are really empowerment, People think they want to attain empowerment for some esoteric rituals and chantings and mantras and colorful deities. And it's okay, But main purpose of even that is so that people really get to hear the Dharma. If they really hear the Dharma, it will completely restore your hearing, completely restore your seeing, and mostly completely restore your sanity. So this doesn't sound like empowerment ceremony, but it will truly boost your super sensitivity, to be wary, to warn yourself of doing ill will and doing desire as attachment. And so that's why it's good to have sadhanas, good to have practices, good to have discipline to spend some things each morning or afternoon or whatever, either by yourself or with colleagues or with the local Sangha or with the center, doing Dharma activities. These things completely distract your mind from hosting and posting afflictive emotions. So, therefore, I'm not going to make this talk tonight just what the afflictions are. We're going to know how to identify and isolate and possibly to eliminate them. So with this in mind, we need to know what the root afflictions are. The root afflictions of hatred, you wouldn't believe. If you know somebody, how much affliction of hatred is causing suffering between him and her. They hate each other so much that because this person hates him or her, as a result of this, all his friends also hate him, and vice versa. This is why the world is so much in trouble, because they don't know they are doing the true origin. They are producing suffering, even though they don't want suffering. That's what the Shanti Deva says. Nobody wants suffering, but they blatantly are jumping into it. Because they don't know true origin of the suffering is their own afflictive emotion. So they have to become sober to know the demerits and destructiveness of it. So that will suffice for hatred, because not only, I could talk whole day on hatred, but today we are just introducing the root affliction. The third root affliction is arrogance. Arrogance or pride, you can call it pride, The definition of pride is that we might focus on your property, on your cars, of your friend in your life, of your possessions, and maybe your furnitures, maybe your savings, maybe your family background, maybe your looks, maybe the money you have in the bank, maybe the place you live. All of these, we become so bloated with feeling of me, I'm so important. This sense of self-importance, which completely blows us like balloons ourselves, like bloating our ego. So the Tibetan word for pride is arrogance is nga gyal. Nga means I, gyal means I'm great. So this feeling of I am, thinking of I am such and such. By the way, I'm the general manager. Oh, by the way, I'm the Pakistan ambassador. Even though you retired 20 years ago, you still keep thinking you're still the Pakistani ambassador. This sense of I, arrogance of self, and whether it's your possessions or your status or things you own or things you have or even the maybe you drive the most nice sports car and you think you're so great, you think you're carrying the most special brand bag. You think you're so great. People become so filled with the bloated ego about the self-importance. So this is the, in generally speaking, the notion of self-importance. There are many types of pride, pride in relation to comparing oneself with others, who are junior than us. As a result of that kind of arrogance, we treat them with contempt, thinking they are nothing in relation to me, look at me, type of thing. Or you can have pride in relation to someone who's who is equal to you, maybe, yeah, equal or who are just similar to you. So then you become very competitive. Pride also makes you pride. You do not actually show respect and compliment to the other person because you think that you are better than them. You know, there's a blatant sort of blatantly ignoring what other person is good at. You always think I'm better, and in comparison with somebody that is equal to you, or to those people who are a little bit more superior than you, maybe they are more intelligent, more successful, more wealthy, more whatever it is, then we just treat them with contempt. Who the hell he thinks he is? I don't give a damn about him. That kind of pride is in relation to someone superior. So you can have pride in relation to equals, to the juniors, to the seniors. As a result of that, we do not acknowledge or show respect or courtesy to anybody. You can see the afflictive emotions of pride can make us unable to show courtesy and respect. We can't speak kind words. We can't show a graceful and respectful gesture when you are proud. You might even pretend that you didn't see him, let alone showing respect to him. So that's why in Buddhism we practice prostration. We practice prostration not to bow down to the idol of the Buddha. We practice prostration to rejoice the ideal of Buddhism, ideal of conquering the ego. So we surrender ourselves, ego, by bowing down before the Buddha. Buddha does not need your miserable bow downs. Buddha is fully enlightened. We don't bow down to statues. It looks like we bow down to statues. No, we know that we have to surrender our pride. And therefore Buddhists pay homage to the Buddha or whoever. It's not because we worship them, but because they make us to feel humble. Therefore we do full length or half length prostration with a hope that may we do not become enslaved by pride, but surrender, give up the ego, and put others before ourselves. See the good in others. If you have good, see the good in others, you don't have pride. Yet, pride is so difficult. That's why in the 7 limb Buddhist practices, first of the 7 things you do is pay homage. Whether you physically prostrate or verbally recite prayers or mentally sort of show courtesy, it is so as to curtail and destroy these root affliction of pride and arrogance. And you can see when there is one person who is very arrogant and doesn't respect somebody, there's a lot of tension between the two. Why? Because they're both afflicted by the poison of arrogance. Why should I show courtesy to him when he doesn't? This kind of a mutual hate and disregard and disrespect is rooted in the pride of the person. It is said that when a person is suffering from the root affliction of pride, he doesn't learn anything from others. He says, I don't go to listen to him. I don't go and listen to the teachers of that status. I know I know some people who said the Dalai Lama is their teacher, But these people study with somebody for years. They never say he's my teacher, So they think that their teacher is Dalai Lama, The people who really they study with, they wouldn't have the humility to acknowledge such and such as my teacher. So that shows how arrogance is so debilitating to our ability to be humble. So therefore, if we understand the afflictive and destructive and poisonous nature of pride, why is pride poisonous? Because it poisons you from showing respect, courtesy, either physically or verbally, You do not show any courtesy or humility to anybody. Why? Not because the other person lacks any quality, but one lacks humility. One lacks humbleness. And that's why pride is the poison that one is holding. So much poison of pride you have, arrogance you have, you do not actually see any good and qualities in others. You don't see good in others when you have arrogance. That's why when we practice our sadhanas, when we pay homage, we shouldn't just do this just ritually, but we should really remember how severe the arrogance is a problem. When you have arrogance, you don't see quality in others. Those qualities of others, you just disrespect them. You say, oh, that's nothing, I don't care. So we disregard, we ignore, we despise other people with qualities when we have arrogance. So you can see how arrogance is poison, because it makes us to say disrespectfully, make judgment, and spread rumors. It's because we have so arrogance. We have no humility. When somebody who has some faults, if we are not doing arrogance, when somebody has faults, we feel sorry for them. We would like to feel we could help them to come recover themselves. We don't treat others who have transgressed some precepts with contempt when you have no arrogance. But when you have arrogance, then you are very competitive to the equals, you are jealous to others, you do not respect those who actually have qualities. Why? Because you haven't done anything about uprooting your root affliction of arrogance. So arrogance is such a, arrogance almost makes you to forget every kind things somebody have done. If you can't respect your mother or the father or someone in your life, it's not because they didn't do A, B, C, D as a parent. It's because you have so much arrogance, and therefore you need to learn how to overcome the arrogance by learning how to remedy them with efficacious teachings, practices of Buddhism with beliefs, like paying homage. Quite a lot of people find it very difficult to bow down because they come from, Judeo-Christian background or something. They don't bow down to anybody. They think it's idol. They don't realize the real idol is the ego. Real idol. They are worshipping the ego so much, yet they don't realize. They think they don't want to worship idol. They are worshipping enslaved with the ego. So until when the person knows the severity of the harm caused by the root affliction of pride and arrogance and self-importance, he will not learn anything, because he thinks he knows enough. What he knows is adequate. So that's why the root affliction of arrogance is very, very devastating. So these three, the desirous attachment and ill will or hatred or anger, whatever you want to choose word, doesn't matter. And the third one is arrogance or pride. So reflect on those three as for the time being. We'll have a short 15-minute break. Thank you, everyone. See you then.
Dear friends, let me remind you that now we have a 15 minutes break. Next event is planned on November 18th, Saturday, when Lama Choedak Rinpoche kindly agreed to bestow the empowerment of Orange Manjushri. Details are in email which you received. See you again in 15 minutes after the break. Rinpoche will continue the teaching on afflictive emotions. Thank you. Dear translators, please start the recording. Dear translators, please start the recording. Dear Rinpoche La, we are ready to start, to continue.
So thank you and welcome back again, everyone. This is the second hour of the teaching on the six root affliction. It is the teaching on knowing what is the true origin of suffering and problems that are mainly one's own afflictive emotions. It's not thing that is out there, or it is not a people, or what they're doing. That is the root of our sufferings and problems, but our own very seldomly recognized root afflictions. We already discussed briefly on the first three, that the desire is attachment, which makes person to desire things that are undesirable, and then become even attached to the very thing, as that's the only thing they want. And because of that, people are so attached to their sufferings, because they don't know what they're doing was causing the suffering. So they are addicted to their very suffering because they're so intoxicated by desire attachment. And then we talked about the hatred or anger. The anger is usually a result of not getting what we desire, not getting what we want, and then we therefore become infuriated. We become so agitated by not getting what we desire. And then we stay very hostile and angry and miserable. And then we talked about the pride, which is the arrogance of as another root affliction. Because if you become successful in getting what you desire, then you become very, very arrogant. So you can see the relationship between desire and arrogance. And the desire makes people to get something temporarily very satisfying, very uplifting, feeling how successful we are, and then therefore this desire attachment can make you to bloat your ego and pride. So that's a relationship, how each of the root afflictions are related. Now the fourth root affliction is called ignorance. This word ignorance comes from the Sanskrit word avidya. A means no, vidya means knowledge, no knowledge. So it means absence of knowing. It is due to absence of knowing the correct thing and thinking one thinks it is something else. Like people who do not know the existence of life after death, they don't know the life after death, and they think they can therefore afford to believe that it doesn't exist. So that's a double demerit. Ignorance and thinking, because they're ignorant of not knowing the existence of life after death, and then they think they are better because they don't need to believe in things like that. So ignorance is absence of knowing. Like the person who doesn't know the running machine is dangerous to touch, he ignorant how unsafe, he's going to touch it and injure himself. Likewise, people have done many things not knowing what it is. People have taken alcohol thinking it's delicious, thinking it's tasty, thinking it's relaxing, but they don't realize they're ignorant that the devastating harm, how alcohol will destroy your life. So people are ignorant about it because means they don't know the alcohol is so harmful. We're talking about here excessive drinking here. I'm not generally saying alcohol. Teaching says that consumption of alcohol. Buddha said that my followers should not take even a drop of alcohol. If they are not ignorant about the harmfulness of alcohol, they will not take alcohol. Because they're ignorant, they don't know that alcohol's harmfulness, they desire the very thing. They desire alcohol. They go to the bottle shop. They don't want to spend time and make a home-cooked meal. They deliberately drive to go to the bottle shop for 20 minutes, backwards, and then come back for another 20 minutes to get a bottle. They're ignorant, they're wasting their money, and they're ruining their kidney and their liver, and many devastating harm, high blood pressure, and all kinds of things. People are ignorant about the harmfulness of alcohol, yet that very thing that is harmful they desire. They pay however much price they have to pay because they desire the very undesirable thing like alcohol, and it ruins his life. Person get intoxicated, and then they become so much a problem. So people are ignorant of the relative things. Then, of course, ignorance of ultimate things as nature of things as it is. People are ignorant that things are impermanent. They don't realize their job is impermanent, their relationship is impermanent, their possessions, their health, their friendship with somebody, their job. They are all ignorant that these are impermanent. They think they are permanent. And they say, I want to apply for a permanent job. They don't know that it's always impermanent job. So they're ignorant. Impermanent as impermanent. And they think it will last long. So they're ignorant about impermanence. So therefore they expect the thing to be desirously worthy of holding it as something. They're ignorant that the bottle of the medicine you bought, antibiotic you bought, has only 2 years worthy. If before 2 years you can take it, it's a medicine, but they're ignorant that after 2 years the medicine expires. People are ignorant about mundane things like that, but mundane practical things. They don't realize they're going east, but yet they're heading west. That's ignorant of the direction. And they're ignorant about the kindness of their parents, and they're very disrespectful, discourteous, and very negative, very critical towards one's parents, even if they have some frailty. Of course they are human beings, they will have mistakes. And one always highlighting that, because you are ignorant about your father's generosity, kindness, and how much he worked very hard to raise you, to feed you, to school you, to send you to a good school, and all of that. You are ignorant that your father has done that. And only when small things, your father's humanness there, you think that's him. You lump him. You completely do not know his an amazing valid contribution to you. So ignorant is very, very devastating. When you are ignorant, you are like a blind. You are frail, blind, old person. Try to walk on a very perilous journey with a very not so good walking stick. You're blind already, you're old already, you're frail, and yet you're walking using a walking stick on a very, very perilous road. So likewise, that is usually in Buddhist artistic, that ignorance is depicted as an old, frail, blind woman walking on a very dangerous mountain path. So when we are malnourished by ignorance, we are often have no power to know the correct one. You do not know impermanence, you do not know emptiness, you do know the merit of bodhicitta, you do not know the merit of faith and the Dharma. You instead blatantly say the Dharma is not true, and then people lose faith in the Dharma because of ignorance. So ignorance is very, very debilitating. It's a blind, remember? So that's why it is important. So here when we talk about ignorance, of course we are not talking about the conventional, what is this, what is not that, but we're talking about ignorance of reality, ignorance of ultimate truth, that people are ignorant that things are dependently originated. They don't realize, they don't know what is dependent. They think he independently created my problems. And then we develop vengeance and anger and resentment. And we always hold this grudge against somebody and hatred somebody because the person is ignorant about the danger and harmfulness of him holding this grudge and resentment to somebody. He's ignorant about the demerit of the hatred, demerit of righteousness, demerit of pride, arrogance. He's completely ignorant. So you can see how those first three afflictions we talk about, desire, attachment, hatred, and pride, are all parented by ignorance. Parented meaning they are the cause. Ignorance is cause of your desire, attachment. Ignorance is cause of your arrogance. Ignorance is cause of your hatred. You are hating somebody who has done more good to you than any small things that you are nitpicking. So therefore, most people's resentment, most people's jealousy, most people's disrespect for other people are all caused by ignorance. He's ignorant how much our parents have sacrificed. He is completely negligible what good they did. He is so ignorant about the good and kind things people have done. Therefore, he is very disrespectful to the very people he should be. He's ignorant about the benefit of humility, generosity, and tolerance. And he says, "Oh, it's zero tolerance." Zero tolerance. He's ignorant how zero tolerance person is very, very angry, very, very agitated, very, very resentful. Yet he thinks practicing zero tolerance is some great thing. He's completely ignorant what he's talking about. So the ignorance is the most root of all the other afflictions. So that ignorance is like a blind. You might be fit with your hands and legs, you have a lot of muscles, but what if you're blind? The ignorant is likened as a blind person, Blind person thinks he's going safely toward this, but he's going nearer the cliff, So whatever he says, whatever he does, due to ignorance, the person is completely unaware what he's saying will have consequences to himself. He thinks if he can put somebody in jail, make him convict, then he thinks he's victorious. But he doesn't realize what kind of trauma and anger you will have subsequently after being able to put somebody in jail. He is ignorant about the merit of practicing kindness and pardon and forgiveness. But a person who is not ignorant will practice all the above. He will practice forgiveness, because he knows forgiveness is not about who's right and who's wrong, who understand the problem, who understand the frailty of the person who commit the mistake. Therefore, he has the goodness, courage to actually forgive. Why? He's not ignorant. He has the wisdom. He has the wisdom not to indulge in judgment and intolerance. He knows it's futile and meaningless and unliving. It's almost death. So therefore, he listens, he reads, he studies the Dharma, he translates the Dharma, he himself meditates on these six root afflictions, and then try to meditate so that he do not do ill will or jealousy or hatred or desirous attachment or ignorance. Because of that, he doesn't want to sit there not knowing what he wants to know what to do. Therefore, he says, what should I do when I'm inhaling? Yes, just you follow the inhalation, you delegate the inhalation, you make it purificatory, you make it very, very transformative, and then inhale. Likewise, permeate the breath. Likewise, exhale. If you know how to meditate on the breath, that's not ignorant. But most people don't know how to meditate. They have no courage and determination to sit and meditate. And so when they meditate, they become restless, they get up, and they go and do something else. They're ignorant that it requires diligence, that it requires perseverance, that it will take time until you have this great benefit and fitness from practicing Dharma. People are very short-sighted. They are ignorant that the benefit of what we do in this very life will only come in the next life, not in this life. So therefore people ignorantly, sprint run practicing Dharma or something, thinking that in few years' time they will become enlightened and realize. They're ignorant that the law of karma takes at least 1 or 2 or more lifetimes to ripen the result of what we committed in this life. So we are ignorant of law of karma, for instance. We don't realize everything that you experience in this life are not direct result of what you did in this life, but what you did to others in the past lives. And if you're very wealthy, if you're very, very fortunate to have loving family and parents and so on, it is because you did good deeds to them, to others in the past incarnation, and your good fortune to enjoy good health. All these are due to what you did in the past. Most people are ignorant. They think he's smart or something, he's fortunate or something. He doesn't know he actually did specific deeds that has made the person to be like that, whether it's good or bad, is directly related to what he did in the past. So therefore people are ignorant about the law of consequences. I call it law of consequences, it means law of karma. Karma isn't something destined to happen, Karma is very, 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 very tangible, very, very changeable, and therefore transformative. Most people think karma is like a fate. You can't do anything because they're ignorant of the law of karma. And of course, if you enjoy good health, if you enjoy some certain specific good things in this life, it's because you have done such good deeds to other people in the previous life. Therefore, you're blessed to have such a loving husband or mother or sister or a job or secure position or whatever. All this is because you have done this in the past. If you experience some very, very difficult, challenging situation in this life, it is because you did such and such things to other people in previous life, and therefore you experience this. Most people are completely ignorant about law of karma, a law of consequences. But yet, when it comes to this life, they go spend 12 years in university with the belief that after maybe 15 years they might get a good job in university. They are very, very optimistic as what good they can reap the harvest of 12 years of study in a higher institution, and then you might get a job in the next 10 years' time. People actually are able to think about the future. They're not ignorant that it takes time to build your profile and ability and goodness before you can actually gain those benefits. Why? Because it creates causes. It needs causes. So here, when we refer to karma, we should not be ignorant about the law of karma. So therefore, we should read and understand what constitutes karma and what we must exercise restraint. And if we experience some difficulties under the hand of somebody, we do not blame them. We see them as the messenger, and the message is sent by yourself from past to the present life. That's why you are now stuck in this life without any choice, because you were completely ignorant in the past life what you were doing. Or some karma may have been created by yourself in, say, early part of your life, and then later part of life you are actually experiencing. My dad used to be a nomad, and most Tibetans are, unfortunately. And much of our livelihood came from animals. And so when my father became later in his life a double amputee, both of his legs had to be amputated because of his diabetes. And then he told me that when they were cutting his shin bone, because in Nepal maybe the machine wasn't very good, so he can actually hear them cutting, crock, crock. He can't feel it because he's anesthetized, but he can. When he experienced his shin bone being cut by the doctor, he remembered. Oh, I remember slaughtering sheep when I was a young man. And many times I cut how many of their legs and shin bones and so on. He says, this exactly. I didn't know in those days I was creating causes for myself to suffer like this. So he was very humble and able to explain and understand that he has done this so much to other people. Therefore, his own being an amputee was not cause of anger or upset, but rather may this suffering of double amputee purify all my karma of the past. That's because he's not ignorant of the law of cause and effect. He knows the cause and effect. Therefore, he has the humility and decency to accept that, and therefore not sort of have this poor me mentality. So it is very important, if we understand the Dharma, practice very well, we should learn to not be ignorant of law of karma. And also, we should not be ignorant that things are not independently produced. Nothing happens independently. So most people are ignorant about the dependent arising. If they are, because they are ignorant of dependent arising, they never say everything is dependent. They say, oh, you did it. Oh, she did it to you. You did it to me. And then they point their fingers to one as unitarily, something as the only cause of things. And that's why sentient beings are very harsh to each other, blaming and pointing fingers, because they don't know. They're ignorant about the interdependent origination, how everything is dependently originated. Means everything depends on many causes or conditions. It doesn't happen by itself, for instance. Nothing happens automatically. Everything is happened because many causes and conditions has already been created to produce that. So the word ignorant is very, very important. And of course, we also we are also ignorant about the teaching of emptiness, because things are empty of inherent existence, but yet we could not comprehend. We cannot know. We don't know emptiness. We know things are things, but we don't know that things are not things by itself. We don't know that things are merely labeled and propped up by many things. We call it such and such. Otherwise, thing itself is nothing there. So we are ignorant about the law of impermanence and emptiness. And that's why we suffer. But when you have the benefit of knowing everything is dependent arising, and knowing how to know everything is dependent arising, and not to therefore think that everything is independently produced, we don't do that. That's what the Buddha's spoken words, Abhidharma hetu prabhava, meaning all phenomena arise from causes. Hetun tekshan tathagato, meaning the great Tathagata has also spoke about their how to seize them. Yedharma hetu prabhava hetun tekshan Tathagato yedharma hetu prabhava hetun tekshan Tathagata haya vadata, meaning he said thus. What did he say? Avambadi Mahasharmana, he says, he also taught there is a cause of cessation. And everything has a cause, but he says this result is also can be caused to cease. And what is it? Means that everything happens due to causes and conditions, not by just one cause. It got multiple causes and conditions, near and direct, remote and hidden, manifest and hidden. There are many causes and conditions. If the thorn is very sharp, the rose thorn is very sharp, there are many reasons why it becomes very sharp. Buddha can explain that, but most of us cannot explain why the thorn is so sharp. It is sharp. We can tell it's sharp, we don't know the mechanics of how things become sharp. It has causes. The seed of the rose already has the potential to produce a plant that has a lot of thorn. Nothing happens without causes and conditions. Nothing happens by itself. So we are usually ignorant. Because we are ignorant of dependent origination, we think he did this to me, she did this to me, he is the problem. And so we begin to continuously haunt each other with the accusation, with blaming. And because we are ignorant that there are many causes and conditions. If someone is little bit looks aggressive to you at office or at home, or when you know that everything, when you're not ignorant about dependent origination, you don't blame his anger. You think, oh, there are many stresses and torments and suffering in his own life. It shows through his behavior. It's not entirely his fault, but he's also experiencing some negative effect of past doings of other people. Therefore, that's how he is affected. So everything is interdependent origination. Alas, most people failure to know this makes very strong reactions and overreactions, and then perpetuate the very problem. Perpetuate means worsens the very problem. Instead of solving the problem, they perpetuate the problem. Look at what they did. What it looked like. What is the Hamas people did? They attacked the Israelis over one night and killed maybe as many as they are said they have killed, and hijacked them. And they are completely ignorant of what would be the consequences of what they were doing then. They thought they could kill so many innocent people. They thought that would be some kind of victorious thing. Look at now the Israelis are doing to the Hamas. Now Israelis also are not aware that this is not going to be very good. They don't realize their reaction might be too much. Maybe they should halt and cease and stop and try to find a peaceful resolution. But they are ignorant that the peace should be made by themselves first. They don't expect others to practice peace when you are punishing them with such a bombardment over the last 2 weeks. Can you believe? I can't bear to watch even a few minutes. I don't know why channels like ABC keep showing that so repeatedly. They have some headlines 3 days ago, they keep showing this, always just very negative, always talking about how bad the world is. They never tell They're ignorant that there are many good stories to be told. Why can't we tell a story of somebody fighting the fire and volunteering, and how many hours, sleepless hours that he worked hard, how much he does it completely out of volunteer? Why don't we have headlines like that? Because our people are ignorant about the merit of telling such stories. They think it's too good to be true, so they tell then the stories of how terrible, nightmares, how terrible atrocities are created. They keep telling these things. And unfortunately, what people are doing is also not good. They're doing so much mutual distraction harm. They both are ignorant that what they do will have consequences, that they would not like it. But they think being able to destroy the other is going to bring some solace and peace, which is completely wrong, because the other is already deluded enough to attack like this. They're going to disappear easily. Don't they have other helpers? And they're all partying and rallying to attack. So this is going to flare up the whole thing. Likewise, if we look at interpersonally, individually, there are lots of people who are reacting and overreacting because they're completely ignorant of the consequences of their reaction. Every reaction has another reaction, and reaction of reaction, and because of that small problem become escalated, become ballooned into so big. That's because they're ignorant of their own actions, having any consequences. They should exercise restraint. So if a person understands the demerit of ignorance, they will be very cautious of taking any reaction, no violence with the violence, no aggression with aggression, and so on. One should instead practice something complete opposite in order to allay and stop the problem escalating to the extent it is. On a smaller level, you can also do the same thing. If you have some kind of a fallout with someone, you're angry at them, you hate them, and you don't like them, you don't want nothing to do with it. A lot of people are crooked towards each other over very, very small issues. They don't realize it is all to do with mutual ignorance. The ignorance. They don't know how to take precaution from that. So ignorance is a very subtle, because it is without ignorance we wouldn't be practicing all the other three afflictive emotions like desire, attachment, and anger and jealousy. Wouldn't do that. So you can see how all the root afflictions are interpenetrated and they're all mutually inclusive. So that's why it is important that we think carefully with our intention and with our actions and words and deeds, what we are about to do. What am I doing this for? Will this not have consequences on me because I'm the primary person saying this, doing this? So then you pause. Yes, you're now not ignorant about the causes and consequences of the you create. So therefore you try to pause for a cause, and then because you are not ignorant of the each effects of each cause will have, because of that you try to control and restrain your causal thoughts and emotions, and not then actualize physically, verbally under the sway of that. So you can see when people who are not ignorant of law of karma, then they can actually take precautions and to cause for some reason to pause, like a truce, to realize this we shouldn't go along this road. This is just mutually destructive, and we should at least try to find a peaceful solution. Most people are ignorant of how to resort to peaceful solutions because they're so enchanted and intoxicated by the promise of a sweet victory. Most people who take each other to the court over something, they are no sweet victory. They have a devastating time, turmoil and stressful whole period, as well as afterwards. If one is given the verdict true, the other not, you think there is a win-win? No. Even the one who have been pardoned has no real happiness because he is ignorant that such act of accusing, making someone guilty, make them punished, has its own consequences. So consequences have consequences. But not knowing these and not learning how to fear from that is what is called ignorance. So that'll do for that. Now the fifth one is called the doubt. The doubt is leaning onto the doubt, even though something is true. And one has this indecisive mind in terms of whether I should believe in the karma or not, whether I should believe there is a rebirth or not. Then one doubts there is any life after death because I haven't seen. See, this is a lot of people these days think there is no life after death because they have not seen it. Of course, the Christians and other people may not say about reincarnation, but they know there is a life after death, there is hell or heaven. So there is life after death. So you don't need to have doubt about that. But yet many people are doubting whether my dad loved me or not, that kind of thing. Even you are already a standing proof that you are loved one by your dad and mom. They fed you, they clothed you, they produced you biologically. They taught everything they knew to you. And you now question whether he loved you or not and doubting he didn't? See, this is doubting and the leaning into the fiction side of it, thinking that maybe my dad didn't love me at all. And then always have this neurosis whether somebody loves you or not. Even though they do, they're spending a lot of time giving you many things, they go through a lot of stress and pain, but yet still one is doubting whether my dad loved me or not. Whether the Buddha is enlightened, one is not, is a doubt. And some people think the Buddha is just Gautama. He's not even the fully enlightened one. See, this is their doubt. They think that having a great doubt is a great outcome. Greater the doubt, bigger the delusion and confusion, I tell you. So that's why it's a root affliction. Doubt is a root affliction in Buddhism. While the positive doubt can be useful to investigate, to check carefully, but the negative doubt is going exactly opposite. So that's why it is important not to let the mind become indecisive due to doubt. Doubt also causes grief. Doubt also causes depression. Doubt doesn't allow the person to take any initiative. He always sees something is wrong. He's finicky. He's obsessive and maybe compulsive and maybe disorder. Obsessive compulsive disorder comes from doubt. If you believe there's no point wasting time in doubt, but I should go ahead and take my action like that, then you would not be wasting time in indecisiveness and anxiety and worry and fear and all other kinds of secondary afflictions arises if the doubt is not quashed. And so therefore you could doubting sometimes for very benefit of doubt is your doubt is more leaning onto the fact, and instead of thinking that something is not going to work, you know why it's not going to work, because according to Dharma you have many doubt. People say, oh, let's go on Friday night to drink my brother's birthday party, you're invited. You really think, while it's really nice to go on someone's birthday, I'm not going to doubt. I will doubt it will be useful for me to go out night drinking with lots of friends. And that's a good doubt. And then therefore you skillfully restrain yourself, excuse yourself, go on early night and doing that. So that is this kind of, these are not these are not a contaminated doubt. Contaminated doubt makes yourself mind very, very iffy. Iffy meaning not able to decide, because it's a double. It's like a two-pointed needle. If you try to sew with two-pointed needle, it doesn't sew even a single knot. Likewise, a person who has a lot of doubt and grief and fear and anxiety, they will not get to do many things. Um, so, but sometimes a doubt can enable you to find the actual facts because you didn't jump into conclusion. So there is all encouragement in Buddhist teaching to use your rational doubt for the purpose of yielding a good investigative understanding of what the thing is, and saying that, and also doubting about future lives, and then don't care about the karma you're creating now, because you doubt there is future lives. Therefore, you don't care what you do now, because it may not even have consequences, because there's not much future left. Thinking that I don't fear, and then the person doubt about the things we did in the past have any consequence. Look at the many good things in your life now. This is a result of past life deeds. Likewise, any difficult things, challenging things your life is going through, it's because you have what you have done in the past. So yet most people are doubting about the karma, doubting about the law of impermanence and life after death, whether the practicing Dharma helps or not, or not believing in the Buddha, always checking. This kind of time wasting in that actually is indecision. It's the indecision and doubt that does not allow the person to go ahead. If you don't, say you are falling sick, and then you say, oh, should I see this doctor? No, I don't want to see. So doubting every single doctor, then in the meantime, your illness and symptoms getting worse and worse. But if you faithfully have trust in the doctor and his kindness, and ask him, tell him what your problem is, you probably will not spend wasting, delaying your treatment. Even if you delay one day your treatment, if you don't get the right medication and diagnosis, your illness can escalate, it can worsen. So therefore, it's very important to know that doubt can completely waste a lot of time and prolong your illness or prolong your problem being resolved. Why? Because of this indecisiveness and grief and sorrow that you are giving a lot of association, and that actually disables you from developing faith. And Buddhism is one of the many faiths of the world. So what's faith? What's your faith? People call it. They don't say, what is your doubt? Thank goodness. Why? Because while kind of materialistic world and people who are leaning onto the science, of course they should investigate. Investigating is not doubt. Investigating is checking how much you can verify and validate based on your experiment. It is not to prove something is wrong, but how much you don't want to spend doubting and not doing anything. Therefore, doubt is a very, very harmful thing. It's one of the 5 hindrances in meditation. Or following us Dharma, spirituality, your doubt. Oh, do I want to follow this group? Do I want to practice this? No, this is too big a commitment. I cannot do this. And then one doubting that I can do the sadhana or practice like that, and always denying and become a minimalist. Doubt will enable you to become minimalist and maybe make you disappear quickly because you're no use at all if you are always doubting. So people who doubt could not sleep very well. People who doubt cannot make good decisions. People who have doubt can do something and then never finish it because he doesn't have confidence to see it through, finish and complete it properly. His doubt completely makes him to cancel after having journeyed that far, and all of a sudden he stopped because he's consumed by doubt. In Tibetan we say doubt is a demon. You've been consumed or possessed by a demon much greater than you, who is completely influencing you, suffocating you from having any sense of clarity and rational mind that enables you to make a decision. So that's that. Now the sixth one is called deluded views. Deluded views. So this is wrong view, basically wrong view. So these wrong views are there are quite a few things, people who have wrong views, thinking there is no karma, there is no life after death, and even though it's their ignorance, they don't think it's ignorance, they hold a view. They think their view is correct. And because of that, they denial. They think there is no life after death. They're completely materialistic. So that's a wrong view of nihilist. Nihilist means they don't think there are any consequences of karma and there's no life after death, and then denying that and don't fear that, don't care, whatever they wanted they do. They don't think there is anything but this life, and after that they think there's nothing. So that's the people who hold a nihilist view. Anyone who holds a wrong view do not entitle to practice Dharma, because Dharma is to correct all the wrong views. Other people believe in eternalism because that they don't realize eternalism is a wrong view. They think everything is created by one, monotheistic God. Can you believe it? People think is this all created by God. They don't know all these factories. They don't realize the parents making children. They think all created by God. And they think that's it. That's the kind of eternalistic view as a creation by God. So there's lots of wrong views out there. Wrong views regarding. And then of course there are wrong views in relation to kind of attach to one's own view. Say our view is the highest way. There's only one way, that is our way. And then there is only one way to the God, that's our religion, all others wrong. So that is also another wrong view. This is clinging superiority to one's views. Others are clinging superiority in relation to their moral conduct. They think their moral conduct is so superior, they therefore compete with others and look down on others and jealous of others. They think their view, because they are monastic, or maybe they are because they are vegetarian, or because they do this, they are very pure. There's no one like me. I'm so great. These kind of deluded views of thinking of superior in relation to how moral we are, how pure we are, and then judge others with great contempt, of course, is completely wrong. They're wrong view holders. So, and then another one is important, is that wrong view in relation to grasping to transient collection as self, thinking that you are your body, and without realizing the body that you are is previous, formerly, there are pumpkins, the bread, the vegetables, the fruit. They are all, we ate them, they become like that. We are not inherently existing self that is in the body. The body itself is transient. It's fragile. It's a nest of sickness and suffering. There isn't anything substantially there is in the body, there is you. But yet people grasp of themselves as me. They point the finger towards themselves and they adopt a name, thinking, I'm my body. Look how tall I am, how slim I am, how healthy I am. The people become so attached to the notion of I am, I and me and mine. And these kind of clinging to the body, to the height, to the color, to the language, to the ethnicity, to ability as me or accomplishment as me, is the cause of great sorrow, great wrong view. So that this wrong view concerning thinking, I am. That's why there is no I that is truly existing by itself. If it wasn't merely labeled and conditioned by many causes of condition, there is no truly permanently existing I. Yet most people grasp that I am my body, I'm my culture, and therefore they become very, very attached to the body as mine, impermanent things as a permanent. See, they have lots of wrong views. So the sixth one is a very philosophically challenging one, because on top of the, so sixth one is leaning more onto the what we cognitive obscuration. What we're talking about. What we're talking about here is the sixth one. Sixth one is deluded views, deluded wrong views. So this is like saying my country, my hat, my car, my this, my that, and all of this litany of things, thinking it's me and mine. And we will say it's my hand, my head. But where is the me? The me is not there. That is not in the hand. That is not the head. There's the chest. So where, by the time you dissect the whole body, where is I that is holder of these things? It's other than the merely imagined one. So the aggregate is transient collection. But yet people think they are truly, permanently, independently existing entity. They think there is a monolithic self. This is the wrong view in relation to transient collection. So with this we will conclude here, everyone. Thank you very much. This teaching on the six root afflictions are very important elucidation on the second noble truth, true origin of suffering. And so in many Buddhist texts, Abhidharma and Abhisamaya many Buddhist texts explain these things in great detail. And so in the Tibetan Buddhist wheel of life, they depict the wheel of life. In the center of the wheel of life, you will see a pig and a rooster and a snake. These three are illustration of three root poisons. So that what we talk tonight is six root poisons. So the three will do, because three, when we subsume everything, is a three from the six. But if you subsume the three into one, it's the ignorance. So ignorance is the root of all root afflictions. So thank you very much. With this, I would like to thank each and every one of our translators and all the participants, and most importantly, our Sakya friends. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to explain these things, and I will see you next time. In the meantime, please make sure you try to put the single hair into your eyes, and then you will notice what's like to know about the root afflictions. And that means please be careful not to put the hairs into your eyes, which means please don't do the root afflictions if you know how to. Therefore adopt meditation and prayer and sadhanas and recitation of mantras, so that you're not going to hurt yourself by this by doing this any of the six root afflictive emotions. So with this we will do the dedication of marriage. Thank you very much, everyone. From the ocean of obe begas de leveza choda Mahayana Buddhism Collection Manjushri Asanga following Abhidharma Ashade Dege mere Mede excellent bodhicitta Tebe Verena Yedanza where has been born made freely without generation made the pressure view or emptiness Tebe where no yedanza where has been born made freely without generation.
On behalf of Sakya friends, I express gratitude to our dear teacher Lama Choedak Rinpoche for giving profound teaching on the 6 root afflictions. Many thanks to the kindness of our translators who brought Rinpoche's words to so many languages audiences today on this weekend in general. Over 1,000 people joined our live stream this weekend from our 16 countries. Next month, we plan one event on November 18th, Saturday, when Lama Choedak Rinpoche kindly agreed to bestow the empowerment of Orange Manjushri. Details are in email which you received with today's Zoom link. Thank you so much, dear Rinpoche. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you, welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Juliana and Oleg and everyone from Sakya Friends for doing tireless coordination work to make this all possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, dear Rinpoche. Thank you.